Hi, now yesterday I posted a little comprehension sheet which focused on filling in vocabulary words, and I noticed a few people that tried to answer the questions were making a few mistakes. So I thought I'd make a video where I go through the answers and I explain the concepts that you really need to understand in order to be able to answer these types of questions. Right, the key concepts beyond just vocabulary are context and connotation. All right, those two words are very important. So I'll take you through those. All right, so the first one I've already filled in connotation here, right? And let's read the definition of connotation. It's a noun, an idea or feeling which a word invokes for a person in addition to its literal, all right, it's beyond the literal or primary meaning. So all words have connotation basically. They're either positive, negative, or neutral. So if we go down a little bit to what are examples of connotation, they give a good example here. Right? They talk about blue. So literally blue is a color, right? But it is also a word used to describe a feeling of sadness. So it has a negative connotation to it. Right, so yeah, if you were to read a comprehension passage where it said someone was feeling blue, obviously you'd need to understand the connotation. All right, now let's look up context. All right, context, again a noun, the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood. So this example down here in this sentence, right? Skilled readers use context. Yeah, it's very important to construct meaning from words as they are read. Right. So the context of words can change dependent on the circumstances that it's being used in. So the very definition of the word can change. So if we go back to our vocabulary sheet, which word is missing? In each of the following sentences, a word is missing. First read each sentence, then choose the missing word from the list. Fill in the circle. All right, let's look at the sample. As they waited for their big surprise, the children were something with excitement. All right, before I even look at the choices, I'd try and think of my own word there. All right, the word I'd probably think of here is a really good example of context and connotation. The word I'd think of would be anxious. They were anxious with excitement. So let's actually feed anxious into our dictionary and see what we get. All right, adjective, feeling or showing worry, nervousness, or unease about something. So we've come to think of anxiety as like a mental illness at the moment, right? But the second meaning, very eager or concerned to do something or for something to happen. The company was anxious to avoid any trouble. All right, so yeah, and you can use anxious in a good way, right? You were anxious for the ceremony to commence, right? So anxious is a really good example. Another word I can think of off the top of my head would be something like exploit. All right, as a verb, see, it can still be positive, make full use and benefit. But then there's another, make use in a way considered unfair, right, to exploit someone. And then as a noun, it's a bold or daring feat. So it's a really complex word that it basically has three different forms of usage with three very different connotations. So you really have to read the context, the circumstances surrounding the word exploit, to be able to understand it. All right, so I would have said this first one, the children were anxious. Which one goes with that? It'd be breathless. All right, they were breathless with excitement. Again, see how breathless could be bad. Literally, it means you're dying. You don't have any breath. You don't have oxygen, right? But in this context, there's a big surprise. Even surprise has a sort of a connotation you have to figure out. Could be a bad surprise, right? But we're able to see they waited for it. They're breathless with excitement. It's actually pretty difficult to answer if you don't understand context and connotation. All right, I'll just fill that one in. All right, Lisa's arms were bare and she, all right, so the colds usually should be bad in this context, right? We associate it with the weather. Her arms were bare. What do your arms do? You would tremble. If Joey hadn't forgotten his house key, he wouldn't be in this. All right, adventure is a positive. Voyage, It's kind of neutral, and you know, house key doesn't seem to have anything to do with a voyage. Excitement doesn't have anything to do. He's forgotten his house key. We can infer he's locked out of his house. It's a predicament, right? It's an undesirable situation, a bad situation. The new action, all right, this one I noticed some people had trouble with this one. The new action movie coming out next week is hotly. All right, some people said criticized. You don't have enough information to say that, right? Because just because it's an action movie, I think people are inferring that action movies are bad. You can't infer that, right? Some people are going to love action movies. So it can't be criticized, and the adverb hotly wouldn't be used with criticize anyway. I think you would use harshly criticized if you were to do that. So it's actually anticipated, right? It's hotly anticipated. Again, that's a phrase you would become familiar with, and you would realize it would fit the context. I noticed some people got this wrong. He was a good worker with an, all right, so you need to notice good as the adjective there. Extreme is usually not good. It could be good, but yeah, it's normally would be thought of to be bad. Atrocious is bad, outlandish is bad, so the answer is unblemished, right? Unblemished means he has no blemishes on his job record, so it has to fit that adjective there. If people around the world, we can help protect these plants and animals. All right, key thing there, we must work together. What's the word that means that? Cooperate. This was quite a something the scandal caused. All right, so a scandal wouldn't cause a tirade, or it's not enough information there. Quest doesn't fit. Why would a scandal cause a triumph? That doesn't fit. It's sensation. All right, now people might be getting confused with the adjective form of sensational, which is usually means, you know, really great, like incredible, awesome. See, none of those words' original meaning is associated with that. A sensation is like much ado, you know, there's a lot happening. So the scandal caused the sensation. A lot of people are talking about it. Right, 7, the accused waited for the trial to start with some. Well, it certainly wouldn't. You couldn't infer it would be boredom. It would only be glee if he thought he was going to get off. So there's not enough there to say that. It would be trepidation, which is that you're worried about it, anxiety. The thief took all of her money and valuables. All right, this one's an interesting one because you could possibly say the thief would be gleeful, right? Would be really happy about taking all of the money and valuables. But the best answer is ruthlessly, all right? Because a thief took everything, it's ruthless, right? It's showing no mercy. Animals become endangered when something is drastically changed. All right, well, hazard and echo don't make any sense. Family doesn't fit the context. Habitat is what's being referred to. All right, this one people had some trouble with, probably because they don't know what some of the choices mean. He's so something, he would probably talk to an empty room. So this is an idiom that means that someone talks a lot. So the answer is verbose. Verbose means to use a lot of words, basically. All of those words that have verb in them are to do with words verbatim, proverb, verbal. I knew from her withering something that she was angry with me. All right, so a giggle doesn't fit with angry, neither does sob or shrug, so it's glare. And you would normally, you know, a withering stare or a withering glare, it's another common usage. Many accidents happen because people fall asleep at the wheel. You might be surprised to learn that it happens all the time. In fact, it's a fairly common, all right, someone answered to this interruption, which again just doesn't fit it, all right? It's saying it happens all the time. The word that sums that up is occurrence. And when airplanes were first, they were smaller and slower, all right? So that's invented. That one's pretty easy. Right, so I think the tough ones there were the ones that really relied on connotation and context, like sensation in this case. Anticipated, right? Be careful that you don't actually anticipate more about the phrase than is given. See, someone might be using their own background to say, oh, action movies are bad because they're violent and so on, but this doesn't say it's violent, right? So you don't have enough information to infer that. You know, Ruth, that one, the question 8 is probably the most difficult one. The thief could have been gleeful, right? You could have fits because a thief, you know, would be happy at the misfortune of others, but ruthlessly would still be the best answer there. So I think in these types of activities and in comprehension in general, it's very important that students are aware of the concepts of context, which means the situation surrounding something. So, you know, if you were to have a word like exploit in the choices, you really have to look at the context and make sure it fits it. And the connotation of a word, whether it's negative or positive, and whether it fits the situation.